Hi, my name is Lisa Powell, and I'm the Associate Director of the Financial Aid Office here at UAB. And today we wanted to share some information with you that will make the transition that your student's about to take this fall hopefully a little bit easier. So as we go through this, just take notes, and if there are things you have questions about, we're going to answer those questions after the webcast. So one thing I want to remind you of is that even though we're getting ready to start the 17-18 school year, very shortly after your student starts school, you're going to want to start thinking about the 18-19 school year. Remember that you do have to apply for federal financial aid each year, and that application will become available on October the 1st for the 18-19 school year. We really encourage families to file the FAFSA early. The website is just fafsa.gov. It's the free application for federal student aid. That application becomes available October the 1st. The earlier you file, the more likely you are to be eligible for some of the limited dollar funds that we have. So I just want to encourage you to file early. Make a note, October 1st is when you'll be able to do that 18-19 FAFSA. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the financial aid award options that your student may have been offered. When you take a look at the My Financial Aid page in BlazerNet, it provides information on anything your student may still need to turn in for us to determine or to be able to disperse their federal aid. It also is where the student would go to accept any loan offers if they want to borrow federal education loans to help fund the cost of attendance. The award that we have offered is the maximum amount that the student's eligible to receive, but they may want to accept a smaller amount, and they can do that in BlazerNet. I also want to remind you that students can give parents guest access to BlazerNet to allow you to go in and see the information that they are seeing in there as well. Now, as far as federal financial aid options go, there are some students who do qualify for need-based grants. That's all based on the information that's provided on the FAFSA. So you may have a Pell Grant, and some of you may have a Pell Grant as well as a supplemental education grant on your award notification. That means that your student qualified for that need-based aid, again, completely based on the information provided on the FAFSA. There are also students who were offered federal work-study funds. Now, federal work-study is a limited dollar fund that we have, and so it's awarded on a first-come, first-served basis to students who let us know on the FAFSA that they were interested in having a work-study opportunity. It's a great way to earn some extra money, gives the students some good work experience. Most of the jobs are on-campus jobs, so transportation is not an issue. And students who work on campus are, of course, campus employees, and so we know that they're here primarily to go to school. And so we work with them according to their schedules. So there are some benefits to working on campus as opposed to working off campus. Work-study money is not money that's going to be applied to their account at the beginning of the semester. They actually earn those dollars as they work the hours that they work. The other thing that you're going to find on a financial aid award notification is that generally all students qualify for some type of federal student loans. Federal student loans are not credit-based. Repayment is deferred while the student's enrolled in school and for a 6-month period after they leave school. So there's no repayment right now. And also the eligibility that a student has is determined in part by their grade level. So let's talk a little bit about that eligibility. For freshmen who are dependent students, and typically if they're under the age of 24, they are considered dependent, the most they can borrow as a freshman is $5,500. If they're an independent student, meaning they're over the age of 24, or there are some other scenarios that make someone independent, like being married or being a veteran, then they can borrow some additional funds. They can borrow up to $9,500. And as you can see from the chart, as the student goes through school, the amount increases, although it increases slightly. There are no big increases in student loan dollars. A couple of other things to share with you about student loans. For the 17-18 school year, the origination fee on a student loan is a little over 1%. So if the student borrows $3,000, they're not actually going to receive $3,000. It'll be just a little bit less than that because of this origination fee. The origination fee is something that is taken off of the top of the loan before UAB ever gets the money, and it's used to help fund the cost of managing the student loan program. The interest rate for the 17-18 school year is a fixed interest rate. It's 4.45%. That is fixed for the life of the loan, so it's not going to change, although for 18-19, the interest rate on any loan obtained during that year would be different. Okay. Some other information about student loans. First-time borrowers do have to go to the website studentloans.gov and complete their loan entrance counseling and a master promissory note. It's a one-time thing. They'll not have to do that again as long as they're in school. This is what studentloans.gov looks like, and there's a special section for undergraduate students, and then there are the two components that I just mentioned, completing entrance counseling and then their master promissory note. Now, another option that you won't find in BlazerNet, because it's not something that we offer up front to families, is using federal parent loan money to help fund the cost of education. Parent loans are credit-based loans, so not everybody qualifies, although the credit criteria is not terribly rigid. For parent loans, unlike student loans, there is no annual limit. So the maximum eligibility is based on the estimated cost of attendance minus any other aid the student is receiving. So if the cost of attendance is $20,000 and the student has $5,000 in aid, then the parent loan could be for that other $15,000. If a parent is not approved, because again it's a credit-based loan, the student can request to borrow some additional loan funds. For first-year students, that additional amount is $4,000. And like student loans, there are origination fees on a PLUS loan. You notice the PLUS loan origination fee is a good bit higher than a student loan. It's 4.276%. And the interest rate is fixed at 7% for the life of the loan if you borrow during 17-18. One thing we always encourage folks to do is to use student loan money instead of parent loan money first. We have some parents who don't want their students to borrow. They want to borrow the money. You're really better off borrowing the student loan first, then filling in with the parent loan because the interest rate is lower and the origination fee is lower on those student loans. Okay. For a parent loan, unlike a student loan, repayment also begins 60 days after the loan is fully dispersed. Now, if you're interested in applying for a parent loan, you do that at studentloans.gov, that website that we were just taking a look at. But this time you're going to go to the parent borrower section of that website, and then the very first thing is to apply for the PLUS loan, and then you can complete the master promissory note for that loan as well. You notice in the top right-hand corner of the screen, there's a login. That's your federal student aid ID and password. It's the same information that you use to log in and complete the federal application for the free application for federal student aid. Okay. One question we get a lot in August is, when does aid disperse to my student's account? Well, the earliest that a disbursement can be made is the first day of the semester. So no money is going to disperse prior to that day. Any aid that is ready to pay will start appearing as anticipated financial aid as soon as charges are posted to the student's account. If your student is receiving any outside scholarships from churches or civic organizations or anything like that, those are not going to post to the student's account until money is actually received by UAB. Okay. Also, if you're an employee of UAB and you receive the employee tuition assistance to help pay for your child's education, those funds generally don't post until after the first day of class. So don't panic if you don't see it there on the first day of the semester. Okay. Let me share with you some things that may be just helpful to remember going forward. Once a student gets financial aid, they have to do a little work to keep it. Students have to maintain what's called satisfactory academic progress. And what that means is they have to have at least a 2.0 GPA, and they have to complete 67% of the coursework they attempt. That completion rate is affected by things like withdrawing from class after the drop and add period ends, or not passing classes that the student is taking. If a student is not making satisfactory academic progress, then they're given a warning the first time around. They're actually given a second chance. There's no financial penalty or anything like that that's incurred. They're just given a warning that says, hey, you're not quite doing what you need to be doing. So they're given an opportunity to bring those grades up. If at the end of that warning semester the student is still not meeting those minimum standards, then they're going to be notified that they're no longer eligible for federal financial aid. That's an unfortunate situation and one we don't want to have happen. We know that sometimes there are extenuating circumstances that resulted in the student's inability to do well in class. Maybe there was a health issue or something like that. In those cases, there is an appeal process that exists, but it's a whole lot easier just to know going in, this is what I've got to do and to work to get there. And that way you don't have to worry about the appeal process, but just do know and make sure your students know that just because they get money doesn't mean they're guaranteed to keep it. They've got some obligations to meet as well. There is help available on campus. We have a great success center. It's the Vulcan Materials Academic Success Center, and they will work with students to help them obtain tutoring and study skills. So I really recommend, if you have a student that's struggling, to make sure they check in with the Success Center. All right, just a couple of things that may be helpful for you to know. If you ever want to take a look at either your own or your students' federal financial aid history, there's a website for that. It's nslds.ed.gov. It's the National Student Loan Data System. On UAB's website, we have a great resource called Financial Aid TV. They're very short videos that provide information about probably 60 or more topics related to financial aid. Easy to watch, quick to watch. It's a great thing to look at. The website's there on the screen. I would encourage you to use that resource. We also have our office website, just uab.edu/financial aid, that provides some great information. If you want more information on federal education loans, interest rates, things like that, studentaid.ed.gov is the place to go. That's also the resource for anything related to federal student aid, any questions you have. That's the website maintained by the Department of Education. Okay. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Jeremy.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Dixon. I'm the Director of One Stop Student Services, and I'm going to kind of go over some payment options that are available to you and to the student in the fall semester and spring semesters as well. Now that Lisa has covered financial aid, let's kind of see how that may play a factor in you making a payment towards your balance. We have two different payment options for you to choose from. One is a 100% payment, a traditional plan, and one is a payment plan that divides it up into three different separate payments over the course of the semester. Let's cover the traditional payment plan first, and that is where you may basically pay 100% of your balance that is due a week before classes start. If you were to fail to make this payment, or if you failed to pay 100% of the balance at the first payment deadline, then you actually would be automatically enrolled in the other payment plan, which divides it into three separate payments over the course of a semester. And when that happens, a $25 enrollment fee is charged to the student account for taking advantage of that option. If a student is receiving financial aid, like Lisa covered a little while ago, that financial aid will be factored into the account balance if all the requirements have been satisfied and if the student has already accepted the aid in BlazerNet. And if they have done all that, then it will be marked as anticipated financial aid in the student account. The other option is the Blazer Flex plan, which actually takes your account balance and divides it into three separate payments over 3 months' time in the semester. That is a $25 enrollment fee, like I said in the previous slide, to take advantage of this option. And the payments are designed to be about a month apart and end before registration begins for the following semester. So if the student fails to pay their entire balance by the final payment deadline, then a registration hold will be placed, preventing them from registering for the next semester. Also, if a student misses a payment deadline, then a $50 charge is placed for each deadline that is missed. And lastly, the way we get the balance for each of these deadlines is we take the overall account balance and divide it over the remaining number of deadlines in that payment period. So we'll actually go into more detail regarding this a little bit later, But basically, if you owe $6,000 and a $4,000 payment is made at the first payment deadline, then $1,000 is what is owed for the remaining 2 deadlines for a total of $2,000. Now, there are a few frequently asked questions that I would like to cover, and one of those is, since the first payment is due 7 days prior to the beginning of classes, will financial aid be applied earlier to my account? And the answer is yes, it will if, again, you have satisfied all the requirements and you've accepted your aid before the first payment deadline. In fact, we recommend that you have satisfied all the requirements and accepted your aid days before the first payment deadline so that you can see if there was anything missing that you may have overlooked. Because if you've satisfied all the requirements and you've accepted your aid, then you'll see it listed as anticipated financial aid in the student account, and you'll see it factored into what is owed at the first payment deadline or at each subsequent payment deadline if you're taking advantage of the Blazer Flex plan. The actual processing of any student refund will be done during the first week of classes. So like Lisa was saying earlier, their aid will be dispersed on the first day of class, and at that point, refunds will be issued, and it usually takes about 3 to 5 business days before those refunds are received. So you may expect those later on in the week after classes have started. This kind of goes the same for students receiving external funding, such as PACT or veterans benefits, or any scholarships that the university may have awarded. Those will all be listed as anticipated if the funds have been received and if you've cleared all the requirements for those as well. Another frequently asked question is, how are the payments amounts calculated for each deadline in the Flex plan? We briefly went over that a while ago, but I wanted to show you an example of how they are calculated because they're based on the number of payment deadlines remaining. In this example, you will see that the term charges are $4,905, and term credits or payments toward the account is $3,216. And that could be in the form of financial aid, a scholarship, or if a check was written or a debit card payment was made. Any of that would all be reflected the same way. So basically, $3,216 of payment has been made, leaving with a final balance right now of $1,689. And this is all done before the first payment deadline. As you'll see below, the Blazer Flex plan calculates that your first payment has already been made. So really, all that's left to pay is $844.50 at the remaining 2 deadlines. Basically, that's just $1,689 divided by 2. And if you decide you want to take advantage of the traditional payment plan, then you just make a payment of $1,689 at the first payment deadline. A way to know what you owe and when is by looking at the different payment deadlines we have posted on academic calendar or on our website, uab.edu/when-to-pay. These deadlines that you see on the screen show you the first payment due, second payment due, and third payment due for each semester if you're taking advantage of the Blazer Flex plan. The first payment due, you'll see at the very bottom of that, says students utilizing the traditional payment plan will make their 100% payment on that first payment deadline. So that's where you would actually pay your entire account balance if you chose not to participate in the Blazer Flex plan. And again, these deadlines are all posted on the academic calendar, or an easy website for you to go to would be uab.edu/when-to-pay. One other thing I would want to make you aware of is another program that is offered for students that are receiving financial aid, and that's something called Bucks for Books. It allows students to utilize their financial aid refund to purchase books before the first day of classes. So if you are an undergraduate student, and it's only available to undergraduates, with an account credit of $50 or more, owed $50 or more due to an excess in anticipated financial aid, then these funds up to $500 will be available in Blazer Bucks for the student to take advantage of this fall to buy books at Barnes & Noble. Let's take a look at a quick example. Let's say that your total balance due is $7,308. But your anticipated financial aid is $8,300. Well, that means that you have an excess of $992 in financial aid. So $500 of that will be added to Blazer Bucks for you to use to purchase books at Barnes & Noble roughly the Wednesday before classes start. The remainder of that, the $492, will be issued to the student in the form of a refund. And this happens automatically. The student doesn't have to do anything. Again, it happens automatically, and all the student has to do is opt out if they choose not to participate in this. So they can go to uab.edu/bucks4books and choose the opt-out option to not participate in this if they choose not to. Again, this is only available to students who are receiving an excess amount of financial aid and are anticipating a refund. Now, there probably have questions for many of us, and we'll answer some questions in a little bit, but if you want to get in touch with us, you can email the One Stop at onestop@uab.edu. If you have questions about scholarships, that's their email address as well. It's pretty simple, scholarships@uab.edu. Financial aid office is finaid@uab.edu, and all of our campus offices are typically open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and sometimes we have extended hours during the first week of classes to accommodate the influx of students as well. So thank you for listening to us, and we hope this answers many of your questions.